Hello there. I hope you're well. I'm Hiramani and welcome to Get Set Global. Today's show will explore how music is connected to health, to mind, and leadership. We know that music can make us laugh, music can make us cry. Some say that music is good for the heart, some say music is good for the soul too, and some say music is an explosive expression of humanity, something that we are all touched by. And it is this universal bond with music that led researchers across the globe to investigate its therapeutic potential. Recent research shows that music seems to slow heart rate, lower blood pressure, reduce stress levels, can even prevent or provide some relief to heart attack patients. My guests for today's show are accomplished musicians themselves, and they have been creating awareness around this subject, how music can evoke emotional response. To relax, to stimulate, to heal. And it is my great pleasure to have them today as my guests. What could be a better time than today to have this discussion as we celebrate World Music Day tomorrow? Along with our discussion, you'll get to hear their brilliant performances too. So, with great pleasure, let me invite and introduce my guest for today's show. So my first guest is Sunita Bhuya. She is an eminent violinist. Hi, Sunita. I think you are mute. You have to unmute. Yes, that's better. All right. Lovely to have you here. And thank you so much for being a part of the show. Um,
Thank you for
you
inviting, and thanks for putting this together, especially because of World Music Day. To thanks to you and to Sentinel.
Awesome. No, that's a pleasure. Let me invite my second guest as well, and he is John Ray. He's the founder of Songit Foundation UK. So, hi, John.
Hello, Iran. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you. And thank you so much for being here. Great to have you as well.
It's an
Um,
absolute pleasure. And thank you so much for having me on. You and Sentinel for inviting me for this.
Brilliant. It's a great pleasure. Now, before we start the discussion, I thought I'll do a quick introduction of Sunita Bhuya as well as John Dore. So, Sunita is, yeah, that's better, Sunita. Yeah, much better. So, Sunita is a trained Hindustani classical musician. She learned the violin from her mother, Minoti Count, and later from her guru, Padma Bhushan Pandit Vijay Jog. Sunita has traveled the world, mesmerizing audience through her performances and her inspiring talks. Her music therapy workshops for over 20,000 less privileged children across India got her a recognition from the Pope himself at the Vatican. Sunita is also an eminent HR professional who trains executives on leadership through the medium of music. Her album Bihu Strings by Times Music is the only album of folk on the violin. So that's Sunita. And coming to John Do, John Do is a senior IT professional and he's a musician too. And along with his wife, he founded Songit Foundation in the UK. And Songit Foundation exists to create awareness and showcase the healing power of music and the arts as a complementary therapy for people suffering from either plain unhappiness to the more clinical mental health issues such as autism, clinical anxiety, depression, and ADHD. So thank you once again to both of you. It's a great pleasure to have you here. So Sunita, if I start from you, so you have been doing significant work around creating awareness around how music can be therapeutic for both physical as well as mental well-being, and you have run many workshops. And I'm guessing, I think I'm right in saying this, that you have experienced the healing power of music, either for yourself or for your family and friends. So I'd really like you to talk about one such time when you felt the power, the healing power of music in healing some sort of health issues, like whether it's physical or mental condition. And I think that will really set the scene beautifully what this discussion is really about.
Um, well, thanks for the warm introduction. And like I said, it's always a pleasure to interact with you. And to answer your question is that, I got introduced to experimenting with the healing powers of music a little later. I can tell you how I was impacted by the power of the medium itself. This was about 16, 17 years back, when a friend of mine took me to the Don Bosco Street Shelter in Mumbai. There was a concert before that, and the previous evening, and then he said that, Sunita, why don't you come to the shelter and meet the children? I said, well, I will come. I came with the violin, and I do get a violin too. And that was my first ever experience of sharing music with a community or a group of people who came from a different background than the audiences I had been used to playing for. And they were children who were literally picked up from the streets. They have been drug abused or sexually abused or have gone through very traumatic childhoods, and they are brought to the center, and they are rehabilitated, and they are medically treated, and then they are given academic lessons as well as enrichment sessions. So the way they reacted, and the way some of them who probably hadn't interacted much because of the shocks that they have been through, they started opening up in the session. And that was a huge arrival point for me, that my God, what I've been using as a gift of God, as a gift from my mother, because she taught me, and as a toy. The violin was a toy with me till that time, actually, and something to kind of go about and play and get applause. And it was completely a source of entertainment for me and my audiences. That was the first day that I felt that this is more than a medium for entertainment. There is much more to it. And I opened up my notebooks from my master's class on impact of sound, the physics of sound, started reading on therapy. And that's when the journey started. And of course, subsequently, I did a lot with cancer patients, and one stark example, of a session was for Shanti Avedna in Bombay, which is it's a home for terminally ill patients, cancer patients. And when they said that, we didn't feel the pain for that 1 hour. It's not me as a musician who did any magic. It was the whole medium and the whole engagement of working with them for that 1 hour, that they said we felt that we didn't feel the pain. So this was much later, about 4 or 5 years later than the first experience. So these two have been my arrival points of using music as a healing medium.
Wow. And then you actually did music therapy workshop for over 20,000 less privileged children. I think that's mind-blowing. But I will come to you about your experience with the cancer patients. But what you have just said, I read an article because I wanted to do a bit of research for today's show, and something similar someone said about his father when he was in the hospital, terminally ill with cancer, and the mother brought a cassette player with his favorite songs. And he saw that his father was although so exhausted, but listening to the music, he could see some light in his eyes. So I think it's a similar thing that we are talking about now. I have heard you sing before. I have seen you play the violin before. I was totally mesmerized, and would absolutely love to have similar experience today. Of course, it's online, but what can we hear from you today?
Right away?
Is that okay with you?
I think
or is it
in the next round.
later?
Yeah, in the next round.
Okay.
I will just put my Tanpura on. It is on. But
okay.
Yeah, I probably will hear.
That's fine. We have time. So maybe I'll come to
Yes,
I'll come to Jonto. I think that's better for
yes.
yeah. So Jonto, you also have a personal story to share, and you song. Can you hear me with the background music?
Yeah, yeah,
No,
absolutely.
I'll get it down.
I'm fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah. So what I was saying, John, you also have a personal story to share, and Sangit Foundation, born out of a personal situation in your life. And if I'm not wrong, your daughter was diagnosed with ADHD, and then she found great benefit from music. And when you experienced that through your daughter, you wanted to extend that to others and create awareness. So, if that's okay with you, I would like to hear that story that led you to really start Sangit Foundation.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. So essentially, for me, mental health was another thing. It happened to people and so on. So we had that. So there was not much I was into it. But then my daughter, she was doing quite well in school. She was on the top of the class, and then she was doing pursuing her masters, pursuing her university in Oxford in economics and management, which has the lowest admission rates in the universities in the UK. And she was doing really well. She was hosting the Nobel laureates in economics, and she was head of this Capitox. She was a president, co-president of Capitox in Oxford, and so on. So she was doing really well. So, and I thought things are really looking nice, and she's doing quite well. One day in the third year, she came home and said, "Papa, I've been diagnosed with adult ADHD, clinical anxiety, and dyspraxia." And I said, "What?" So first stage was, denial. They were saying that, these things don't happen in Indian household. All, Western concept. All these goras, they come up with all these. Forget about these things. You just continue doing your studies. 1 year to go, graduate. You already have good jobs in hand. Just go ahead and do it. Get married. That's what life is going to be about. Then we realized that there was a problem. So the next stage was saying, so what do we do? Where do we go from here? Right? What do we tell? Who do we approach? What will people say? कि जनता की बेटी को क्या हुआ है? What has happened to his daughter? And then you go through this process. And then the third stage was to go and approach. I then anyway went ahead and approached people and said, there's this issue. What do we do? And in the process, what happened was, two kinds of reactions. My daughter became coffee table conversation in a lot of my friend circles, saying, hush, hush, what's happened to her. The other was a lot of help came through. And my daughter has become such an inspiration to me. So she said, "Papa, I'm going to fight this battle, right? And you don't have to worry, I'll fight this battle." 2 years she stayed at home inside her room, right? She graduated. Thankfully, she went back to university, graduated, came and said, "Papa, I've got jobs, but I cannot do those jobs because that anxiety just kills me. I won't be able to do." Then she went through, so it's a medical problem, went through a doctor, medication was there, then was meditation, there was counseling. But one of the things, what happened was there's this charity in Reading, in where we lived earlier, it's called Ready Pop. They teach, so they don't judge you, they just teach music to people with mental health issues or other issues as such, like what Sunita has been doing, you see. So they just, so what they do is they look at you, talk to you and say, why did you take up this instrument? Now, my daughter has been learning piano, keyboard, guitar, singing. Like we put all our children through, in that machine, that they'll become good masters of everything. So she did all that, but for a period of time, she broke away from that, and then she went there, started learning drum, and that seemed to have a big therapeutic effect. And she turned around. 2 years she was at home, then she went and applied to 50 jobs. She got, and she told everybody that she had a problem, right? She in that application. And so she got rejected by 20, got selected by 5. She took the one she wanted to do. moved out of the house from our, Sandhurst house. She lives in London with her friends, and that was a miracle. And of course, she's still not dead. She's 90% there. She's 10%. She still struggles. It's like living with diabetes or blood pressure. But what really happened was that music seemed to have a very, very big impact on her. And then I spoke to her. Obviously, I needed her consent, and she said, "Yes, Papa, we need to discuss this because two things. One thing is mental health. Nobody wants to talk about. It's such a taboo topic, right? Mental health. No, you know, and taboo topic. Nobody wants to talk about it. So my point being, you need to accept that there is an issue, because if you can identify your Ravan and say, here is what my Ravan looks like, that's 50% of the battle won, because then you can strategize to battle your Ravan. And part of the strategy, the part of your armory is music, where you use music to battle that Ravan. And obviously, you have to use the armory smartly, in a proper fashion, so that you get the maximum out of it. And I think that is where, and I said, hold on. When I spoke to people, I said, my family does not have it. Nobody in the family has it. None of my friends have it. Why should I have a mental health problem in my family? But when I started talking to people, I found that every second household has a problem, right? And then they said, no, Jayanta, you are talking to a converted. Yeah, I have my brother, mother, father, sister, son, daughter, cousin, uncle, aunt. Somebody has a problem. People who have lost lives. And I said, I'm lucky that I have not lost her. She's still with me. There are people, I still see people losing lives. And I thought, so that message of mental health is so important. And music has been one of the best complementary therapies that I've seen. Obviously, there are others, right? Music and the arts, right? There are others. Yoga is there, physical fitness is there, and so on and so forth. But this has been a big, big journey for me, where I thought, people should benefit from what I've struggled. They need not lose those 2 to 3 years. They can arrest it early and address it early.
Right. Beautiful. Beautiful. I think it's such a positive transformational story. And the outcome, because then you went to setting up a foundation to help others. It's amazing. Now, quickly, I wanted to ask this to you. And now, because I think ADHD, I wanted to establish this connection between ADHD and music. Is it because music relies on structure? It's about rhythm, timing. So that helps ADHD, people who suffer from ADHD, to get some sense of timing. Is that how it, I mean, in a very broad concept, is that how it works? Or
Absolutely. So in ADHD,
okay,
what happens is you can't sit still, because your mind is always, all over the place. To give it a structure, you need that music.
right,
See? And it's not only about playing music, it's also about listening music. So my
right,
daughter used to go around, and nowadays it's gone down a little bit. She would put her headphones, and you could hear her going dick tick dick tick dick tick dick tick dick tick. And I'm saying, she's so unsocial. Why is she doing like that? Then I realized, she was cutting out the noise which she perceived as noise outside her world. So
right.
that brought structure to her, like you rightly
Yes.
said.
Brilliant. Okay, I'll come to you about more what kind of music, but let's go back to Sunita, because she just spoke about her experience with cancer patients. So I know that you have seen those patients undergoing some change, and I think when you were there, you saw all these terminally ill patients coming. They were brought in stretchers, and on listening to your music, your performance, some of them set up, as you said, and several of them joined you in singing and clapping and dancing. And like you said just a while back, that they said you made them forget their pain. I also know that you are involved with a few research where, to find out how music affects human brain. So what do you make of this when you saw those patients? What happened to them on listening to your music? You need to unmute, Sunita.
You seem to have read up a lot already, Hiramani, and that's why you do what you do. Um, well, Let me tell you what the science behind sound therapy is, because it all starts there. You know, we all use music as something that we feel, you know, it, like I said, as entertainment, as engagement, but there is a complete science behind sound and its impact on the mind and body, right? So what happens is that as soon as a mind hears hears a sound, because music is sound, right? Nad. And after that it becomes sur. When sound is structured in a way that has got certain tenets of our musical text, that then a melody gets created, right? There are 7 notes of saregama padhani, you know, saregama padhani sa sarega ma ga re sa. It's sound put into a melody. So what happens? Let's go to the basic. When you hear a piece of music, let's say, our brain or our mind responds to it in 2 ways. One, you just hear it and you let it pass. You hear so many things wafting in the neighborhood, right? You also hear honk, sounds of the honk in India. In Mumbai, the BEST bus honk is so loud. Pa, 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 pa. It's 2 notes playing. Sa, 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 ni, 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 sa, 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 ni, ni. But yet you don't roll down the glasses. Yeah, it's 2 notes. But you don't roll down the glasses and start dancing to that or responding, because that hasn't been put together in a structure that's got aesthetics. Okay, so if you hear a melody, you either let it pass, or sometimes the hearing evolves and graduates to listening. That is when your mind starts responding actively to a piece of music, melody, song, orchestra, lyrics, whatever attracts you to it. And there are 3 reasons for which you respond to that stimulus of sound turned into melody. That is one, when you know the piece of music, you've heard that sound. Like when we hear in Assam, someone hears a Bhupenda song or a Bihu, immediately our body goes into a dance, right? 2, the genre you're exposed to. You love folk music, and it's a folk music of a different land. Because you like folk, the genre, you like jazz, the genre attracts you. 3rd and most important, and that's the space that we artists like us want to operate. You've never heard that piece before, but yet you respond to it. I'm talking about, what's our satisfaction of making. So the 3 things happen. So what happens as soon as you start listening to the melody, it's like your mind telling the body, hey, I think we like what we're hearing. Let's calm down. So the brain sends a signal to different parts of the body via the nervous system, which is that system that makes us feel what we feel, right? And do what we do. And that's when, after 7 to 8 minutes, our body starts producing a hormone, which is the feel-good hormone of endorphins. I'm not sure Jayanta would know of it, because he's working in the field. And if and most doctors know of it, and even people who work in this area know of it. Now, these feel-good hormones are the ones that regenerate our tired cells, which means gives us more vitality in return, helps us deal with stress. So that feeling of stiffness that we have after a long day at office, and we come and switch on the car and switch on our music and we relax. It is scientific. The feeling of happiness, the feeling of pleasure in anything that we do, Hiramani, it doesn't have to be just music. Every time our mind responds to an engagement, either by listening to it or by doing it ourselves, these endorphins get produced in the body. And these endorphins, as Jayanto would know, is that helps in arresting DHAT, in arresting a lot of the negative feelings that we have. And 2 more hormones coupled with endorphins, oxytocin and serotonin, the joy of giving, sharing, and the joy of nurturing. These 3 together actually combat these mental illnesses and the syndromes. There are 2 syndromes, I forget the other one, DHAD and aging syndrome. So this is the science behind it, right? So obviously, when an artist makes an attempt to reach the people, how will I reach them? How will I reach the cancer patients? I have to do a little bit of research on where they come from, what the demography is, and what kind of music they've been exposed to. Do I get a chance? Always, never. So I have to figure out ways in which I can break down the 7 notes in such a way that it inspires them. So take mediums of popular songs, Bollywood numbers, bhajans, various kinds of melodies that will do the first step of the reaction. Let them sit up and listen, not see me perform and get overawed by the whole persona of the artist coming into their ward, but reacting to the music. And when they start reacting, like any creative engagement, when you walk in the park, when you go for a jog, when you cook, when you garden, these are all creative engagements. When you spend time with your loved ones, when you run in the gym, when one has sex happily, all of these, every activity in the body and mind, if our mind and body are ready for it, increases those endorphins in the body. And music does it in a very fine, in a very sustainable, in a very, very aesthetic manner. This is what happens to them. And that they get more and more. So more endorphins get produced, the more they feel good. They forget the pain. Right? What happens to artists? When I'm so tired, I land up in long flight, my feet are almost giving up. I know I've got dark circles, or I somehow land up on stage. Once I start playing and I get the applause, my endorphins also start increasing. I start enjoying my music more. So that's what happens. That's the context of music therapy.
Yeah. No, I think it's really well explained, because also very interesting. We see music as a form of art, but today it's so much about science behind music. And, that is super interesting, I suppose. And, Sunita, we are having this discussion today because you spoke about Dr. Bhupen Hazarika. He had this discussion, I think, 22 years back, 1999, and he came to the UK to give a talk on music therapy.
Yeah.
And he spoke about, how lullaby is like a medicine for children, because they will go off to sleep. And Dr. Nipen Borkatuki, who just, I think, left a message as well. He invited Dr. Bhupen Hazarika 22 years back to talk about this. And it's evolved, but it's a subject now, but we're still talking about music therapy. Is it a good time, Sunita, for a performance?
Yeah. As you can see, in spite of being ready and all of it, but yet you need to kind of fine tune. It's like the instrument is like the human mind and body. You need fine tuning to be and to get into that mode. Did you recognize the lullaby? বাড়িতে বগরি বাড়িরে বগরি পকি হুরি যাব আমারে ময়না খুব. Because you talked about lullaby, I've never played this before. It came to my mind.
Beautiful. Absolutely fantastic.
And then when I had my son and he wouldn't go to sleep, I couldn't sing this. Can I have the rojam, please? It's inside that thing. So he wouldn't sleep with this lullaby because probably his mind was tuned to something father used to say. Kheng kheng ghoriyal nahibi, khek khek pandor nahibi, meow meow mekuri nahibi rati, dure kanai kati. तन को छुआ तूने, उस तन को लागे नैन, इस मन को लागे नैना, ना 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 ना। गंगा सिलोनी राति परे परे, गंगा सिलोनी राति परे परे, गंगा सिलोनी, गंगा सिलोनी पिहिती पेपारे, पिहिती पेपारे माँ, गंगा सिलोनी पिहिती पेपारे, पिहिती पेपारे माँ. So it's the same rag combination from that lullaby that came to my mind to Bhupen Das Dil Hum Hum Kare, which had a large portion based in rag Bhupali. Sare ga pa tha. Sare ga pa da sa da pa ga re ga re sa da. Sare ga re ga pa da pa ga. So it's the same 7 notes. It's the language is universal. It's how we interpret it. Hence, it reaches everyone.
That is just out of the world. I thought that was superb and mind-blowing. And also how I was just talking about Lullaby and then Dr. Bhupen Hazarika. You just all brought it all together. Thank you so much for that. Really enjoyed it. So John, coming to you. Now, Sangeet Foundation, obviously through this, your idea is to create awareness, and you have said just a while back that what is important is to create awareness is important because early prevention, intervention can save lives. And I think you create awareness by doing various things like, bringing renowned artists and musicians, and also conducting workshops and then sharing content outcomes with your community. So I would really like to know a little bit more about the sort of things you do to create awareness through Sangeet Foundation, if possible with examples, if that's okay.
Absolutely. I think, what happens is, so there are a few things. One is, if I come and say Jayanta talking about mental health, people turn around and say, this IT consultant, what does he know about mental health? So why believe him? So then you have to, get people who are renowned, right? Like people like Sunita coming here and talking about it. People, because they are, practitioners, and they people would believe them. So we had Aparna Sen come. So Aparna Sen is a patron of Sangeet Foundation. So is Bikram Ghosh, right? So they come and talk about their movie making, the art of movie making, the movies about mental health, and why it is important, why people should be looking out for it, and that they should take cognizance of it, right? Bikram Ghosh spoke about how the rhythm helps, that music process. How does it help? It's not about, and it's also not just about the music. Music will not help on its own. You need to be able to imbibe that music, take it in its right spirit to be able to help you, right? People who are attuned to that, they will let themselves help you. And it also depends on the kind of music. So there is music which incites, right? There's music which soothes. So you need to know what kind of, it's like a therapy, it's like a medicine. So you need to know what medicine applies to whom. And mental health is such a huge topic. It's not just one thing. Like physical health, you've got blood pressure, you've got you've got blood sugar, you've got diabetes, you've got uh, cancer, you've got general fever. Every disease, every ailment has a medicine. Music so the right music for the right ailment for mental health can have tremendous impact, right? That's what we do. So what we do, one is general awareness, where people like Usha Utupji came and she performed, right? And she spoke about mental health and why it is important. And everybody shares their own personal experience. So people know that it's if they are facing it at their home, they are not the only one. There are others. And that there is hope. You see, that is one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is where we have sessions by doctors. So we have got Dr. Argo Sharkil, who's on the board of Sangeet Foundation. So he comes and speaks about mental health, that how it impacts, right? And why they should be aware. And then go to music. And then you go to people like Ready Pop, bring Ready Pop in to say, yes, it helps. And if you have a problem, you can go to them. There's a place to go. It's not just screen talk. There are people you can reach out to, right? Now I can go and tell people, reach out to Sunita. She can help you, right? So people who actually are practitioners. I'm not a practitioner of mental health and music. I only talk about awareness and I redirect them to the right people who actually deal with it, right? So similarly, there's a lady in Harrow. So she runs a school, Joyita Ghosh. So she teaches music to people with special needs, right? So I'm saying that you need to get the right kind of teacher for the right kind of therapy, and that is my awareness mechanisms. Not only that, and then we also partner with, say, universities. So University of Leicester, De Montfort University of Leicester, or SOAS, School of Oriental and African Studies in London, to say what can we do, to further this research on music, mental health, and music and the arts. So we do that. Now, the whole outcome of this is the fact that people now reach out and say, Jayanta, I have a problem, right? What should I be doing? That, I think, is a success of Sangeet Foundation, where people feel that they are comfortable enough to reach out, that they will not be judged. And that is important. And they know that we can go to the right kind of people. Apart from medication, meditation, counseling, there is music, and what kind of music can help? What options do I have? You see? So that is my aim, is to go and do work on the ground. So I'm not blessed enough like Sunita to be able to go on the ground and be able to do that work. I'm still in my early stages to say, how can I take this learning and take it to the people on the ground and say, what can we do for you?
Before Hiramani, I want to just state the last thing that Jayanta said is that, I'm not like Sunita because you are not a musician. But remember, music happens with connecting the notes. So connectors like you are a crucial connector in connecting the notes metaphorically. And if people like you are not there, how would you take the right person to the right need? So you need to take back those words. I'm not like an artist. You are enabling artists and enabling musicians to reach to the right cause. Over to you, Hiramani. Sorry,
I call myself the Amazon, not the product. You see?
Absolutely, connecting notes. तभी तो chord बनता है, वहीं से सुर बनता है.
Yeah, so well said. But he said all of this, but he's a musician as well, and I'm going to request him to sing in a while. But all of that, what you said, I have actually seen some of those sessions. I listened to Usha Utupji and how she came and spoke about how music keeps her happy. And of course, she comes across as a happy soul, doesn't she? And and she, what you just said, I figured that out. She said that, she has got her own share of problems, whether stress, anxiety, health problems, but music is like an anchor. She comes back to it. And I think that helps others to know that everyone has their own share of problems if they are managing. Yeah. So I think that's what Sunita is saying, that what you are doing is just connecting people, isn't it? To all these ideas. So that's wonderful. And now coming to your performance, I have, by the way, listened to you, Jayanta, before perform, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. So I would really like to hear something.
So now you have put me in a spot, because in front of Sunita, You see, I'm a bathroom singer, and it's just that
we
I
are
need a
not we are not
bigger
here
bathroom
to
take my guitar inside. But
yeah, we are not here to look at who's a maestro and who's a performer. We're looking at music as a medium to heal the world. So everyone has the right to express through the seven notes. That's the
She
open
said,
stage.
she said it.
so this song is basically about creating awareness and how, and obviously the river is the metaphor, and obviously all of you know the song, and here goes. বিস্তীর্ণ পাররে অহংক জলে রে আকার হনিউ নিঃশব্দে নীরবে বুড়ালুই তুমি বুড়ালুই বুয়াকিও. That's my Assamese. Then I switched to Bengali. বিস্তীর্ণ ভূপারে অসংখ্য মানুষের আহাকার শুনেও নিঃশব্দে নীরবে ও
গঙ্গা তুমি গঙ্গা বলছো কেন?
নৈতিকতার চলন দেখেও মানবতার পতন দেখেও নির্লজ্জ অলস ভাবে বইল কেন? সহস্র বরসার উন্মাদনার মন্ত্র দিয়েও লক্ষ জলের সবল সংগ্রামী আর অগ্রগামী করে তোর না কেন?
বাহ,
বিস্তীর্ণ দুপারে অসংখ্য মানুষের আহাকার নিস্তব্ধে নীরবে ও গঙ্গা তুমি গঙ্গা বইছো কেন?
Wonderful. That was just
wow,
fantastic.
wow.
That is wow. And also thank you for making the effort of starting with Assamese. I mean, that's so nice
I
to
hope I
see.
got the pronunciation correct though.
You did. And 100 marks for the effort as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Sunita, you played the violin from your balcony during lockdown. And I am hoping that probably it is to create similar effect for people who were stuck at home, to ease the anxiety of the pandemic and also to just boost their mood and feel better about themselves. How was it? How was the response? How was it taken?
The first thing first is that to be honest, like our gurus tell us that agar sangeet karna hai to sachai sabse mahatvapurn hai. We've got to be jodi sangeet koribo lage hottotar hotto mane honesty thakibo lagibo. So to be honest, I did the balcony concert first for myself, okay, for my own self. Reason being, this was on the 23rd of March last year, 2019, and that was the day that the government declared it as a first curfew ever for the pandemic. And they said, and the Prime Minister said that it's not curfew, it's care for you. And then just few days before that, we had seen the balcony concert in Italy where people were performing. And 2019 February and March were the busiest months for me as an artist. It was, you have these highs in your life, you have these phases of highs and lows and highs. It was entire month of February, out in 29 days I had performed for 25 days in 15 different cities, and March was also on the same, and everything came to an end from the 15th of March. So obviously first thing, we were very sorry for ourselves. Then we thought about the world, what's happening, pandemic, people were starting to lose lives, and medical professionals were so stressed. And then I told my son, let's do something. He said, why should we do on the balcony? Mom, what's wrong with you? You play in the basement, you'll go and play in the slums, you play everywhere. Now, even the balcony, you're not leaving. I said, see, are you going to play with me or not? Are you going to question me and run me down? Or are you going to he said, I can't take my piano outside. I said, you have your electric piano. It's about the intent, learn. And he was full of life at that time, planning to go abroad to study Western classical pianist. Indian violin तो कहीं भी बजा लेता है, कुछ भी बजा लेता है. मैं तो Western pianist हूँ. All structure, rehearsal. I don't walk into the stage with a rehearsal. Unlike me, I walk into everywhere with the violin and play for anyone. So those were the biggest similarities, distinct, divides between us. I said, get the electric piano and set it up. So he eventually set it up, and instead of, I said, bells. He said, but the government has asked us to use bells and plates. I said, no, this is my bell and plate. This is my weapon of choice. Ko weapon bolo, bell bolo. This is mine. I'm going to play the violin. If you want to join me, you can join. And then one of our friends who was staying with us, she said, Sunita, I will take the camera. I'll use, I will.
Nice.
Yeah. So then NDTV had called for a quote on what's happening with artists and musicians. And then I said that I'm doing a balcony concert. They liked it. And they wanted to shoot from the balcony. I couldn't let them inside the house. I had a sister-in-law who I didn't want to expose her to people outside. Yeah. So they shot from 5 floors down. They took the feed from the Facebook Live and they telecasted live in their whole days in the evening show. So then my son said, NDTV mein live aahi soma, mummy toy. I said, are you going to play with me more? Yes, I will keep playing with you. 20-year-old child boy wanted to play more. So that was the balcony concert. We did Assamese, we did Bande Matram, we did Akla Chalo Re, because if you have no one to walk with you, you've got to walk alone. Jodi tor dak shune kyo nai ashe tobe Akla cholte hobe.
Wow.
So that was the balcony. And people came out, by the way. People came out from the balcony, they started clapping. And then Ron said, who's going to hear you? There are no microphones. I said, I don't care. I'm playing for the universe. If people hear, they will hear. If they don't, and then people came out and clapped. He was very happy. I had no dependency. Whether people will come, people will see, whether anyone will cover. I was ready to do it on my own. So that's the experience here.
Wow. I mean, this is magnificent, because it's showing community solidarity as well, lifting each other's spirit. And like you said, Italy was the first one, but when I saw India, you playing it, I was like, that's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And so that's
we have to give Thanksgiving. And right after that, I realized, and that moment I realized that it was a great Thanksgiving for, it was a way of showing thanks to our medical professionals. The TV crew who was there from 5 in the evening till 7 when it was actually aired live, they braved all the protocols and the risks into their own lives, and they covered it. The municipal workers, police, our doctors, and that's when a spate of dedication started, and I was happy doing those after that.
Yeah, it was a great thing to do. Absolutely great thing to do. We'll have more performances, but I think I'll quickly ask John to this, that probably you get these questions all the time from people that, what sort of music is good for me? Are there different, like you mentioned a little while back, are different music for different illnesses? If I don't listen to music much, is that a problem? Or if I listen to music all day long, is it a sign of depression? So how do you deal with all these different kind of queries? How do you respond?
So like I said, different music impacts differently, right? So essentially, if you talk about music which is jarring, then it can disturb your mind. So it depends on what kind of music you are selecting. So different kinds of music impacts differently, and music therapy has been there from long back, since the time of Plato in the Western world. So there in between there was something called the Mozart effect, where they said you listen to Mozart, you become very smart. So and you had all these CDs selling about listen to Mozart and you ace your exams and so on, which then they realized it's not true. I mean, basically it made you smarter, it made you solve puzzles a bit faster for a period of time. But then my point is that there is an impact, and not everybody understands it fully, you see. And that is where you need to be experimenting and seeing what really works. So there are these experiments on, even in the UK, there is this music therapy which is applied, but all in bits and pieces. Now, Indian classical music is very well classified. This is actually used as there's a full classification as therapy to say what rag actually impacts what kind of ailment. Right? So, for example, they say for diabetes and blood pressure, Rag Bageshri is something which helps you calm you down and helps with you with these ailments. And they have been proven. I have not attempted them anyway, but I understand they have been proven. The and my point is that this is something which we need to do more research on, which we need to classify them and apply them in the medical context. So for example, today when you have got fever, people will give you paracetamol. They'll say have Calpol, things the fever will go away. Similarly, we should be in a position to say when you are in the early stages of mental health issue. In fact, you go into depression. This is the song you listen to. It will help you go down, your depression to go away. It doesn't happen like that now, and that's what I'm saying. That there's so much amount of research which is required to go into it. But yes, typically there are rags which says if you are under depression, this is what will help you uplift your mood. If you are hyper, then there are rags which will calm you down. But if you are already in a depression mode, if you listen to those kind of music, it will probably create further depression. So it is
Right.
about different courses for different horses, or different horses for different courses, whatever the saying may be. But
Okay.
I'm saying that, and that perhaps is something that musicians, perhaps Sunita would be in a better position to say also what actually works for who. Because if you have gone through this process, you will know this music will work for you. And of course, the bigger thing is about the context, which Sunita mentioned, is about your cultural context, right? Because what you have grown up with. Because if my grandmother, my grandmother has dementia, I'm saying my grandmother is no more, bless her soul, but if she has dementia, and if I bring in Mozart to her or Beethoven to her, it's not going to do anything to her. But if I bring Rabindra Sangeet to her, it will make a difference for her, right? Or if I bring in Eastern classical, Hindustani classical to her, it will make a difference to her. Similarly, the same goes for a person who's grown up with the Western context, and I bring Eastern classical, probably it may or may not, I don't know. But what they have grown up with, that makes a lot of difference as well. So cultural context is also very important.
Yes. You say that because I have read it in the research, because I had to read for this show, right? And it does say that people who suffer from dementia, for them, music that they grew up with, that works the best for them, like you just mentioned. And they have also said it helps in learning and memory, because music activates both left and the right brain at the same time. So it maximizes learning and memory and all of that. So it's so
Absolutely
wonderful to hear all of that. Now, I think Sunita is ready for another performance. Are you, Sunita?
Yes, I thought we were talking about performances, so I thought I will move to where my son was doing his practices. So Ranojit, you didn't have to get up. We are here doing a show. Would you like to come back to the piano? And I thought if I have to play, because I realized that Hiramoni does want us to perform together. So as you know, we hadn't planned this. So you have to be kind to us. We are not used to performing with the laptop, but we will do with the best. But did you have a question? Because did you have a question, Ramani?
We will always come to a question, but I think performance would be amazing, and this has come as a beautiful surprise, because it would be so wonderful to hear Ron as well in his piano.
You were asking about him, and I did say that the first part of the show he won't be able to join because he was doing his own practice. But I moved here, so. So, like Jayantu said, there are different kinds of music for different kinds of ailments, and it also follows a theory that we can use, which is the time theory of Indian music. Like you talked about, how morning ragas can cure or can be used for recuperation for diseases like arthritis. Again, music cannot join bones or do surgeries. It's always used as a recuperative alternative medium of healing. So, we don't want anyone to say that Sunita Bhuya and Jayantu came on the show and, I don't want to take medicines. I want to join my bones with music. That will not happen. But after the medication has come in, after the surgery has worked, when our body cells need to get healthier and impact the healing, that's when music helps. So morning ragas, afternoon ragas help us to increase the metabolism. Pimpalashri is an afternoon rag. A morning rag is Bilawal. You can find these traces in even Hindi songs. Sare ga pa ma ga re ga pa ma ga ma re. Sare sani da ni da ma ga pa da ni. Sare sa. Rag Bilawal. Sa pa ma re ma ga. Sa pa ma re ga ma ga. Sani sare. Diya bole, kya ye bole, janu na. Jiya dole, rega maga, sani sari, sani sa. So Bilawal also has got these 7 notes. Sappa, dari sari da sappa, dari sari da pari. Rega ma pari, gama pa ma ga pari, gama ga pari sa. Dhama, haro ka isko piste, haye to behta pani. कैसी पहेली है ये कैसी Sentinel की कहानी baby thanks to Sentinel knowing
That is superb.
for years together and create so much awareness amongst people. So thanks to the Sentinel group for hosting this. So all music has got these 7 notes. Afternoon rag Pimpalashri. Nisa ga ma pa ni da pa ma pa ga sa ga ma pa ma ga ma ga re sa ni pa ni sa ga re ni sa ni sa 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 ni sa ga re sa ni sa ni sa 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 ni sa ga re sa ni sa sa ga re re te tu cheez badi hai mast mast sa ni sa sa ga re te sa ni sa sa ga re sa sa pa ma pa 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 ni da ni pa da pa pa ma pa sa ni pa da pa pa sa sa ni
It's 9 o'clock.
Whether it's a bhajan in a temple or an item number in Bollywood, it's got the 7 notes. There is no class or mass in music. Baba ni sa sa ga sa 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 ni sa sa pa ni ga sa 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 ni sa sa pa ni re 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 ga re sa sa pa ni pa ga ma ga my name is Sheila Sheila ya pani ni sa sa pa ni re 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 ga re sa ni sa pa ni pa ga ma ga ma ni sa ni da ma ma ni sa sa ga ma ga ma ma ni sa ni da ma pa ga ma ga ni sa ni sa sa ga re 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 Since we're doing this for the UK, we'll end this section with a Scottish tale
Okay.
and a bit of maybe Siyaset with you. Do we have a time for it? Or you're going to ask a question, you know?
It's fine. We are enjoying it so much.
Okay, so we got to tap our feet. Because when we have a Western pianist, we need to do something a bit Western.
That was stunning, absolutely stunning, and thank you so much,
Wow.
Ron.
Amazing.
This was
Thank you.
yeah. This has come as a surprise, of course, and he plays it so well. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you.
Absolutely
Such a great
great.
gift.
I know. Now I don't know if I even want to ask questions because this is like we're ending on a high note. But now that we are talking about music, I quickly wanted to ask Sunita, how do we incorporate music into our lives? Because this is what we have been talking about, how it can be useful for our well-being. And at the same time, I wanted to ask you about, because you also deal with the business side of things. So how can businesses take advantage of music to enhance productivity and efficiency? Do you talk about types of music? What do you recommend?
Yeah, actually, the entire leadership piece, we probably need another different program for that. I don't want to take up the time. But yes, the engagement of music is so, the whole engagement of doing music with fellow musicians, with different differences, the different sounds. There is string, there is wind, there is leather, and all kinds of elements. There is sound, there is light, and the smallest sound in an orchestra makes the largest sound, right? So hence, music teaches us the lessons of inclusion, of working together, of respecting differences, of working with differences, but for understanding each other, listening to each other, ensuring that we challenge each other and get the best out of people, not show their worst, but their best in an orchestra, in a performance. So these are certain leadership qualities that people can imbibe via the engagement of music. It doesn't have to become an artist or a maestro, but engaging young children and students in music and sports helps them to become holistic individuals. That's my take. That's what I would like to recommend. But to use music during different parts of the day, morning should be meditative, slow, because our body is still not gotten to the rhythm. Like Joyanta said, rhythm is an important part of healing, of aligning our metabolism to the universe. So morning it should be meditative. Ragas that you like to hear, or even songs. Like I said, there is no class or mass in music. There is no prescription to enjoying music. The music that makes you feel good is your music, is your therapy. So the biggest lesson of inclusion is that the 7 notes are universal, whether it's Saregamapadani or Do Re Mi Fa Sol La Ti. And all the music in the world, from bhajan to bandishes to rock to classical, western, Indian, jazz, Ahomya Bihu, to baul, to any music under the sun, Irish, Scottish, all 7 notes. So you choose the music that you enjoy. However, different times of the day when you're cooking, you need to have something rhythmic or music that you can sing along, because cooking needs a lot of love and energy into it, right? When you're studying, you don't want to have very loud music. When you're walking, you need to listen to loud music. In the gym, they blast your ears away with the loud music. When you're having dinner with people and talking, it should be light and ambient. You can follow these guidelines in listening and making the best use of music.
Right.
And of course,
That's what,
there are a lot of theories and texts you can find anywhere in Google of different times of ragas at different times of the day.
yes, yeah, absolutely. There's so much that you can read about it. But like you said, I also feel it's about being mindful, when you listen to a piece of music, what kind of emotion evokes. If it's making you feel sad, then probably it's time to move on to something you feel good about. So it's about mindful listening as well, probably. But thank you for sharing that. Now, Jayanto, I have got a question, and then probably I would love for you to do a little performance as well, if that's okay. But we are talking about the power of music, the healing power of music, and I think that's established. But is there a thing as too much music? Like, if we listen to music for a longer period of time, can that affect our brain, like in terms of affecting our brain negatively? Has there any research been done on that side of music?
So there has been, there has been some research, but it's not comprehensive, so to speak. Yes, so anything excessive can be harmful, and especially, so there are different kinds of harmfulness, if you will. So firstly, if the sound is very loud, if you're listening to loud music beyond a particular decibel level, so if you're listening to it beyond a certain number of hours, obviously it can impact your eardrums, it can impact your hearing, you see. And that is why we need to be careful on how much we listen to that music. That is number one. Number two is impacting your mind. It is also, if you listen to negative music, the more you listen to negative music, metal music, with suicidal thoughts, that can impact you, and that can really be that can lead you to self-harm, you see. So again, if you are listening to good music also, so if you are listening to calming music, so if you are in a depressive state of mind, too much of that can also can impact. So I'm saying that, there's no one single way of saying that too much of music is bad for health. It depends on what kind of music, under what circumstances will it be impacting. So every time you go through a research, it's always qualified. It says, this kind of music for this purpose, it's not good for physical health, for mental health, and so on. So,
right. So what you are saying really is experts still haven't recognized that music addiction as a mental health diagnosis. So there is nothing comprehensive, but you are saying that different music is for different people. And also, if you're losing track, for example, by listening to music regularly, maybe you need to pay attention why. And
right.
if you can't survive without music, then probably you need to pay attention why that is. But there isn't any such thing as too much music, at least through research. All right, great. So what are you going to hear from you, Jayanto?
So I was contemplating, since we don't have too much time, here's a song which I thought was in line with when you are dealing with mental health, right?
Okay.
And this was the theme of Mental Health Week in the UK last year. And I'm going to sing this song. This is a Glenn Campbell song, right? And here it goes. Let me be a little kinder. Let me be a little blinder to the faults of those about me. Let me praise a little more. Let me be when I'm weary, just a little bit more cheery. Think a little more of others and a little less of me. Let me be a little braver when temptation bids me waver. Let me strive a little harder to be all that I should be. Let me be a little meeker with the brother that is weaker. Let me think more of my neighbor and a little less of me. Let me be when I'm weary, just a little bit more cheery. Let me serve a little better those that I am striving for. Let me be a little meeker with the brother that is weaker. Think a little more of others and a little less of me. Think a little more of others and a little less of me.
Wow.
That's terrific.
It's
That's
just a
terrific.
thought about, we need to be kind to each other. A little bit kinder can make the world a better place.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Couldn't agree more. So Sunita, we'll have to end, but I have got a question and then I have a request as well. So the question is that because you have been working, in this subject of music therapy, and we know that alternative medicine, you have spoken about it as well, that's gaining popularity with music therapy. I mean, it's evolved, but when it comes to you, how do you want music therapy to be incorporated in the world of medical science? So that's my question. And the request is because we have to end on a high note with a performance of yours that's something that's your favorite, to uplift. We are talking about uplifting spirit, so spirit of everyone who is listening, to uplift that. So would love to end with a performance, something like that.
I thought that that end performances was right. What I did a little earlier in the show, because I had told Ron that I will call you in maybe at 8:45, and he was ready, and then I thought that's the time I had to go. So I'm sorry if I went before.
No. That was a treat, anyways. That was a treat. But
So anything from Sunita will be a high for all of us.
Oh, that's so kind. That gives me my endorphins for the evening for sure. It's got a very busy week. First of all, I would like to invite all of you on the 25th of this month, which is a very, very meaningful event that the Hinduja Foundation is hosting in association with the National Brain Research Center on the impact of music on the brain. It's
wonderful.
In the evening, yes, and we have various kinds of specialists who will be there, and people who work with music and disability, people who work with music and brain science, and of course doctors who are working in the field of oncology and recuperation through music. So that's one invitation that I'm going to put it up again, but both of you need to definitely come if you're free.
Absolutely.
It'll be an honor to have you there. And when you talked about how music can be incorporated in our lives, is that there's a lot happening in medical science, and where how the brain impacts to sound is being researched. And there's been findings that sound impacts and helps in cognitive preservation, meaning the healthier brain cells, or the brain cells remain healthier and become sharper with the impact of sound. Hence, if music is used in a laboratory environment, there could be a lot more influences on the brain, and the mind and the brain is what ensures how we feel, and that drives our entire nervous system. So that's one big research rather, but I have a very small part that I'm playing along with the National Brain Research Center. We've been working closely, and so that's how music can help in our thought process, in our feeling good, because if the brain cells are getting healthier, that's meant the body feels healthier too, our thinking. And most of the mental illnesses starts with the brain, and that's an organ, I think, Joyanta and Hiramani, that we human beings want to disregard it. It's like any other organ in the body. We have a problem in the stomach, immediately you get operated and you tell the whole world, my liver is not functioning, I've got an allergy, I've got a gallbladder, I've got a heart condition. But we will not talk about why, when a mind is the brain, it's an organ. Why do we treat it like a metaphysical object? It's any organ in the body. It's like any other organ. Let's look at it as an organ which needs attention and can be ill. And like they say, medical records say that 60% of illnesses are mental illnesses, because the brain can't take so much, and we like to disregard that. So let's look at that as an object and treat it and look at it objectively. All the taboos will be removed. So that's one area. And I think, what else did you ask me after that?
How would you like to see music therapy to be incorporated in the world of medical science? It's there, but what would be your vision?
Yeah.
I don't know.
For recuperation, in the sense that, like I mentioned in the piece when I went into the studio with Ron, is that music as of now has got very powerful abilities to work during recuperation as a recuperative therapy. So you've done your surgery, people have done the chemotherapy, they've gone through, if you break your bones, you've gone through joining them in the hospital. After that, it's what does therapy mean? Meaning you have to do things that make you happy. You cannot stress your body, because you cannot stress, which means your mind needs more love, more care, more thought, more mindfulness, and music really helps in that situation. And very importantly, we've got to remember that caregivers in the medical fraternity during recuperation also need as much of energy as the patient. We always forget the caregivers, the nursing fraternity, the paramedics. They need a lot of therapy themselves for them to be calm, composed, resilient, and to get those energies that they need to take care of people who are not their own. We have a problem in taking care of people who are our own. Can you imagine nurses do this 24/7? Doctors need it. So we've got to remember about the community that helps in recuperation than just the patient. And especially the caregiver for example, a cancer patient needs the therapy as much as the patient. So I always like to do it with a group. When I'm doing with children in the less privileged areas, I want the parents and the guardians, the teachers, most importantly, they are so stressed with life too. They also need to. So group therapy is extremely important for any kind of alternative therapy to work. But everyone should be happy. Like, if people around us are not happy, we can never live in happiness, right? So if people around us are not calm, they are not de-stressed, they don't have the tools to help themselves be happy, how can only the patient be happy then? How can a patient recover? So that's the way I envisage therapy.
Yes, great. And I think some of the hospitals actually have started doing that.
Yes.
They have recognized that it's the environment that needs to be pleasant, and that's how they introduce music therapy. But what you have said is just wonderful, because it needed addressing that. You need to see how you see other organs. Brain is also one of those, isn't it? So really, really wonderful thought there. But because of time, we'll have to end. But let's end with a beautiful performance, Sunita, if that's okay with you.
What would you like to hear?
That's the question, John. What would you like to hear? I think something that is your favorite, Sunita.
All right. Joyanta sang in Assamese, so I will do Bengali. And I'll come back to what I said, that especially for mental health, especially for people recovering, especially in the pandemic today, when there is so much of sorrow, pain, loss. I lost 4 people close to me, starting with my dear father. It's not been 2 months that I lost him to COVID. I lost a close friend, almost a younger brother in Ayushman from Assam, Ayushman Datta. And of course, we lost my very close brother-in-law, my husband's oldest cousin, too. COVID. So these are, at these times, a lot of us feel alone. A lot of us feel, and like Jayanta's beautiful song that be kind, and the last words. Jayanta, what were the last words? They were so powerful of the song. The main words
Think
of
a
the song.
little more of others and a little less of me.
Think a little more of others and a little less of us. I mean, what a beautiful way, what a beautiful way to kind of, shout at the human race and like Manu Hai Manohar Babe's Benda.
Absolutely.
What a beautiful way to shout. So I would say that those of us who are feeling low and you feel that the world is not with you, Jodi tor dak shune kyo nai ashe tobe
Wow.
ekla
Ekla
chalo.
chalo.
All of you can sing with me.
Yeah, please join, Jayanta.
Jodi tor dak. Let me get the tanpura on. যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ নাই আসে তবে একলা চলো রে, তবে একলা চলো, একলা চলো, একলা চলো, একলা চলো, যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ নাই আসে তবে একলা চলো রে, তারা তা 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 তারা তা তা তা। See, the violin changes the tune when it changes temperatures. Ron's room was very cold and this room is
Right.
warmer. একলা চলো, একলা চলো, একলা চলো।
একলা চলো রে তবে
Come on.
একলা চলো, একলা চলো, 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 চলো রে, যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে চলো রে।
कोई कथा ना कोई, अरे ओ बाबा, कोई कथा ना कोई। যদি সবাই থাকে মুখ ফিরায়ে সবাই করে ভয়, যদি সবাই থাকে মুখ ফিরায়ে সবাই করে ভয়।
সবাই করে ভয়। তুই কেউ না Wow. Wow.
It was superb, absolutely magnificent. Yes, and I'm so happy to be ending on that
And
note.
even your tuning is so tuneful. It sounds so nice when you were tuning it even in the beginning. So amazing.
Even tune sounds like in tune while tuning. Brilliant. Listen, I had such a great time, and I am sure people who are listening also had a great time. The energy, the insights that you guys spoke about, and I genuinely felt that today's show was meaningful with so many inputs from both of you, along with brilliant performances. So, can I just thank you, both of you, for all of that, for being here, for your time. And I wish all the very best for everything that you do in your life. So keep well, stay safe, and goodbye for now.
Thank you. Goodbye. Thank you for having us.
Raman. Thank you.
Yeah.
Lovely, great time. And thank you to
Bye.
the Sentinel as well. Thank you to
Thank you,
everybody who is
Sentinel.
watching. Yes. And yeah, goodbye. See you.
Okay then. See you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.